I welcome you all to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In the past 2 weeks, the past 2 weeks were marked by very hectic diplomatic engagements, including the Prime Minister visit to China and the Deputy Prime Minister visit to Pakistan and the visit of the EU High Representative on Foreign Affairs to Pakistan. Um, and this was despite the fact that we had Eid holidays in the previous week. So first of all, let me just give you a brief roundout of the Prime Minister visit to China, which you covered extensively. This was at the invitation of the government of the People's Republic of China. Our Prime Minister, His Excellency Mohammad Shahbaz Sharif, undertook an official visit from 23 to 26 May. During the visit, the Prime Minister held meetings with the President of China, Xi Jinping, and the Prime Minister Li Qiang. The Prime Minister chaired a Pakistan-China B2B investment conference on IT and telecom, battery energy storage, and agriculture. And this was in Hangzhou in the Zhejiang province. The joint statement issued was quite extensive, and the media carried it out. Uh, Parallel to this, immediately after this visit, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Senator Mohammad Ishaq accompanied the Prime Minister to China, but on conclusion of the visit, he flew straight from Beijing to New York, and the visit took place between 26 to 28 May 2026. In New York, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister participated in the United Nations Security Council open debate on maintenance of international peace and security, upholding the purpose and principles of the UN Charter, and strengthening the UN-centered international system. On 28th May, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister attended the meeting of the Group of Friends on Global Governance, held under the theme of reforming and improving global governance, working towards addressing the common challenges. On the sidelines, the Deputy Prime Minister held bilateral meetings with his counterparts as well as the senior UN officials. These included the Secretary General of the United Nations, the Foreign Minister of Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Cambodia, China, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, the Czech Republic, Indonesia, Panama, and the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of Portugal. We have been issuing regular press releases and media readouts of these meetings, which you covered in your reports. On 29th May, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Senator Mohammad Ishaq met with the U.S. Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C. The two leaders appreciated the positive trajectory of Pak-US bilateral relations over the past year. They discussed wide-ranging issues of mutual interest and agreed to upscale and strengthen economic and trade relations, cultural cooperation, as well as partnerships in counterterrorism and security domain. While exchanging views on the evolving regional and global situation, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister expressed his deep admiration for President Trump's vision and commitment to peace, including his support for the US-Iran ceasefire and dispatch of a high-level delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance to Islamabad for bilateral peace talks in April. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, acknowledged Pakistan's diplomatic and mediatory efforts. He also commended close engagement and continued coordination between Pakistan's leadership and the US administration. The DPM expressed confidence that Pakistan's continued sincere efforts for peace and stability in the region and beyond, with the support of friendly countries, will yield positive results. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan's advocacy for peace and diplomacy to settle the crisis and standoff in the Middle East and the Gulf region continued after having important discussions in New York and Washington. And on the first working day upon his return to Islamabad, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister received a telephone call from the Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdullateh and on the same day he spoke with the Foreign Minister of Iran, Sayyid Abbas Araghchi. The next day he spoke with Kuwait's Foreign Minister, Sheikh Jarrah Jabir Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah, and issues pertaining to evolving regional and international developments and the standoff in the Middle East and the Gulf was discussed. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also point out that in the similar vein, as part of our efforts for peace and stability, the Prime Minister received a telephone call from the Iranian President, Dr. Masoud Pezeshkian. This was on the 4th of January, on the 4th of June. And earlier on the 27th May, the Prime Minister held a telephone call with the Crown Prince of Kuwait, Sheikh Khalid Al-Sabah. And earlier he had spoken with the Prime Minister of Malaysia, His Excellency Dr. Anwar Ibrahim. So this was part of our efforts for regional peace, security, overall regional development, and there was certainly some bilateral content into these telephone conversations that were held by the Prime Minister. Another important development, ladies and gentlemen, this week was the visit of the European Union's High Representative for Peace, for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, and the Vice President of the European Commission, Ms. Kaya Kalas, to Pakistan on the 1st of June. During the visit, the JPM Foreign Minister and the European High Representative co-chaired the eighth session of the Pak-EU Strategic Dialogue. The dialogue is the highest level platform for structured discussions between the two sides. During the visit, the EU High Representative also called on the senior leadership, including the President, the Prime Minister, and the Chief of Army Staff and the Chief of Defence Forces. The visit underscored the sustained momentum of high-level political exchange between Pakistan and the EU and reflected a shared commitment to further strengthen Pakistan-EU partnership. A Pakistan-EU joint statement was also issued, which you covered extensively. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, this week you must have seen that the 8 foreign ministers from the group of 8 countries, that is Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, Indonesia, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Jordan, issued a joint statement that strongly condemned the continued incursion by extremist Israeli settlers into Al-Aqsa Mosque, Al-Haram al-Sharif, and other measures by Israeli forces aimed at undermining the sanctity and status of the Islamic and Christian holy sites in the occupied Palestine. The group of foreign ministers further denounced Israel's ongoing measures aimed at altering the historical, legal, and demographic character of occupied East Jerusalem. They reaffirmed their rejection of any attempt to change the status quo while recognizing the special role of the Hashemite custodianship and Jordan's authority over administration of Al-Aqsa Mosque, Al-Haram al-Sharif. The ministers called on Israel to immediately cease all illegal and provocative actions, warning that continued violations risk escalating tensions, instability, and extremism. They also reaffirmed their steadfast support for the Palestinian people, including their right to self-determination and the establishment of an independent sovereign state of Palestine with Jerusalem as its capital, in accordance with international law and the two-state solution.